Welcome to The Best Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Bradley H. Werrell, and we're here to explore options and potentials to help us grow as individuals and as a community with one another in these difficult times and challenging times. We're exploring all manner of potentials related to the human experience, physical, psychological, medical, spiritual. It's a wonderful opportunity that we now experience in this critical phase of our human evolution. And I welcome you to join us in our podcast, become more aware, and identify with people who are helpful and supportive of you in your efforts as a human being on this planet and elsewhere too. We're going to be meeting people who are doing things that are widely variant from what is so-called normal within our society, in the creative space, within the social space. Our common purpose, seeking to generate positive potentials to improve the lives of everyone in our sphere of influence, and to expand that sphere of influence so that we may positively influence others that are not yet engaged directly with us. That's the goal here. We will learn more about each other as we go. I wish you the very best. Thank you very much for tuning in. Welcome back to the Best Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Bradley Werrell, and I've got wonderful Garrett Dailey with me of Paradigm Enterprises. What's the proper terminology to describe Paradigm?
Paradigm Innovation.
Paradigm Innovation. It's like, but you're affiliated with many organizations, I think.
At least 3.
Really? It's fascinating. Yeah. This digital world is something else, right?
Yeah. If the gig economy keeps going the way it's going, then we'll all have 10 jobs by the end of the century.
10 jobs. It's like, that's funny because it's like jobs. It's like so I look at when I do medicine online. Sorry about that. When I do medicine online, it's like this is my presumption is every time I see a patient is a gig. Right? It's just a little thing, It's like, it's okay. Turn the turnstile, you get your pony should ride and it's good. And we move along. Right. And it's like the stuff you're doing is kind of like intermediate to that is ongoing relationships of business relationships that they continue functioning more than like, I have no like if I treat your sinus problem, it's like, that's good for me. We're done. Right. It's like, unless we have a different arrangement, which is possible. But it's like, honestly, I prefer this. I prefer relational transactions or relationship building functions as opposed to transactions. Right. So really, probably I'd have done better in the 50s with the gray flannel suit. You know, just okay. We have a deal and we just work this deal that's very productive, and that's okay. And it's like, I don't know. It's like, it's a different world though, man.
Yeah, there's a concept that at some point I'm going to write a book about it. I got a couple books in the chamber somewhere, but the gist would be this concept that we've been kind of developing at Paradigm called the partnership economy.
Okay.
Which is it's a number of things. It's kind of like a meme complex that I'm engineering to fight the way of business as usual, if you will. But we have this concept of capitalism as a whole that's very much antagonistic in nature, right? The idea is everyone's out to get everyone else, dog eat dog, that kind of stuff. But in reality, the nature of human existence is cooperative, right? We're social animals for a reason. If it was all like cutthroat competition for all of human history, then everybody would die. And that just really isn't how it works most of the time. We just tend to focus on the worst part of things. So with that in mind, if you can change your perspective from the notion that, you know, a startup is competing with everyone in your field. Like one of the things a lot of people that we work with at Paradigm will come in and they'll put on their deck for their pitch deck for their business, right? They'll put on oh, our competitors are Amazon and Google and whatever. It's like, okay, that's not the case. If you walk into Golden Gloves on your first day and you say, oh yeah, I'm competing with Mike Tyson, it's like, no, you're not. If Mike Tyson punches you in the face, you're gonna die, right? One time. He's not. You might think he's your competitor, but he certainly doesn't think you're his competitor, right? You're not in the same league. And so, with that kind of thing in mind, it's okay. Well, you're not competing with Amazon. You're not competing with Google. You could certainly make something useful for them. You could certainly find a way to work with them, right? Instead of trying to redesign everything in the world, you could say, well, what's a way I can, get their API and work with them? What's a way that I could make this appealing enough so that we can be cooperative and change the dynamic, right? And so if we kind of lead with that notion that cooperation is a better MO than competition from the jump, obviously there are going to be times where you have to compete for sure, but not all the time and not a lot of the time, right? And so if you think about Apple and Microsoft is a good example, right? They one of the main reasons Microsoft has a majority share of the PC market, right, is because that was when they kicked Steve Jobs out in the 80s because he was being a bastard or something. And so if he had stuck around, Apple was likely going to continue to dominate, and we would all be using Apples instead of Windows PCs, right? If instead, however, we consider what a market would have looked like where we didn't have people that were fighting each other, right? If Apple focused more on that kind of coherent user experience and Windows focused on the stuff that they focused on, which was making more open-ended software, stuff like that, they really were doing different things, right? They were kind of doing different things. And it's actually this mimetic, as in MIM, mimesis, not memetics like memes. This mimetic conflict that forces us to see the other person as competitors when in fact we could be cooperative, right? Imagine a world where Apple and Microsoft weren't at odds with one another, right?
I am imagining that. And it's like this, it looks like John Rockefeller's world, okay? Which is this. This is the patriarch of the Rockefeller family, and this, sometime in the 1800s he said this probably, is competition is a sin, and he's a monopolist for that purpose. And so it is like, that's it. When you get cooperation of forces of such nature, you end up with monopolies for the purpose of managing the divide the world in spoils for the people participating in it. And so it's like, okay, the kind of the opposite of that, like a populist sense, is there's a fellow named Robert David Steele who wrote a great book, which I have yet to read. The title is in itself sufficient for me to know it's a great book, which is the Open Source Everything Manifesto, which is it's like anti-patent, anti-copyright, anti all the monopolistic corporatist things, for the purpose of creating a world of technology that is easily accessible by anyone and available without the surcharges that will go to the owning class. You know what I mean?
Are you familiar with the concept of rent seeking?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
yeah.
It's a big problem, right? When you think about
wait, only a problem if you're not one of the ones that have the can collect it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at this is one of the things that people, like, especially capitalists, fail to realize is, like, if capitalists would just address the problems with capital, especially consumerism, people don't really distinguish those two very well, but consumerism and capitalism are wholly different, right? But a lot of the problems that capitalists fail to address are the reasons that Marxists exist. So, like, if you were willing to say, like, hey, man, maybe landlords charging $2,500 for a studio, maybe something's wrong about that, right?
Right. I get you. Now, so here's the trick. It's okay. I'm going to tell you a crazy thing, okay? Which is like this, okay? I'm going to be the ownership class, okay? So we're going to distinguish them from everybody else. And it's like this. So capitalists and Marxists are controlled opposition by that group against us.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. Oh yes, it's like let's
the bourgeois, if you
let's
will.
do it. No, the bourgeois are just to be divided and conquered by us. It's like the bourgeois is just one of our little sub games, and it's like so it's let's you and him have a fight, right? And it's like Lenin said it. V.I. Lenin said the best way to control the opposition. Oh no, the best way to control the opposition is to lead the opposition. And so it's controlled opposition. So what you do is divide and conquer. And that goes back to Caesar talks about it in his book, which I have yet to read. I'm way behind on my reading, of course. Divide and conquer. And it's like the interesting thing is this is how do we unify and not be defeated? Right? That's the game. And that's ultimately where we must go, I think. And it's like, what a challenging thing it is. Because it's like people are they're easily fractured along these simple cleavage planes like race or, sex. It's like and it's like, that's what I regard this like identity politics as ultimate fracturing of the population in this manner for those purposes, which is getting institutional support at this time. Right? Mm-hmm. It's like when the corporations are pushing the thing real hard, like I see in my business as medicine is a lot of push for COVID-19 is a huge thing in the corporations, and the corporations are pushing it as hard as the medical establishment is not driving the COVID-19 thing, in my estimation of it. And it's like, why is that? Well, there's a purpose afoot here. And it's like, okay, the same thing with the, I don't know. I don't want to go too much into that because I think I'm going to get into the marsh and get in trouble. And I'm a risk adverse doctor, as you know, being what they are. It's all very good though. Like fascinating world though. It's like, and it comes down to this digital thing, which is information flow, right? How do we make the information flow effectively so that we can accomplish our objectives? Because I regard all of it as information. Everything we do is about information. I'm segueing now. I got a segue for you. This is pretty good because I was talking to my sister today. I talk to her about every day. My sister's a personal coach, and we talk about stuff. And it's like, okay, so now we're like doing exercises. Like, okay, so it's like we're gonna do this exercise, and I don't remember the nature of the exercise, but it's like this. We've been wanting to write a book ourselves. And I said, what we're going to do is we're going to write our book by creating exercises and writing down the exercise answers. It's like experimental behavioral function. And the experiment that I proposed today was this is we're going to make the question is when you you ask a person a question and they sort of don't answer the question. And they provide an answer that is not an answer to the question. Does that make sense? And so you're like this, your game is to go like this. What was the question asked and what was the diversion? And then notice what happens after you start paying attention to this kind of like, it's like a deflection of the question by almost answering it or not quite answering or para answering it, not indirectly. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so it's like this. So what the proposal is to create a series of work, like experiments, like scientific experiments, write down the answers, and then keep a notebook like that as the backbone for the book that is to follow. Like, how do we make ourselves better at being ourselves and doing our thing, right? And I'm like, saying that to you because you're talking about writing a book. And I'm like, it's tricky writing a book. I never have done it. I actually have done it. And it turned out to be such a crazy book, I won't publish it. It is a crazy book. It is. It's like, and it's right. It's just right, but it's weird, man. I'm like, I don't need people to be seeing the weird stuff coming out of my head, man.
Get a pseudonym,
There you go. I like that right there. It's like, there's a reason for that, right?
Silas Dogood,
There you go. Everybody's using these like Roman sounding names like Paracelsus or something like that, right? That's what's going on right now. I see a lot of it. And there's some good stuff coming out. It's like it's like the people that I hang with, the people that think like I do, generally don't use their real name. And I'm like, there's a reason for that. The powers that be don't like you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's okay. What a world though, man. It's a very exciting time to be alive. But when I was 20, I was like this. They the Chinese curse it. May you live in interesting times. When I was 20, I said, I want to live in interesting times. And I'm like, yeah, I'm 58, 57, 58 this year. But it's like, I'm not so sure. It's like, I'm getting old for this interesting business.
Yeah.
So it comes to you. You don't get to pick the times you live in, right?
Yeah, seriously though.
They say that you're not burdened with more than you can bear.
They say that. I don't know about that. Have you seen the national debt? It's pretty high.
It's just like that. It's just a number on a page, man. It doesn't mean anything. This is like this. It's like this. It's a debt. Who do I owe it to? And why do you think I'm going to pay them a nickel?
But yeah, somebody once told me that historically America gets in debt and then goes to war with the people we owe the money to. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that sounded true.
I have not heard that. And it's like, to me, it's like, it looks to me like we owe the money to the international finance community, and you can't go to war with them because
unless you're Reddit.
Oh, yeah, the Reddit thing, man. Like that. It's interesting. It's like a guerrilla uprising, not really a war. It's like because it's like how much capital can be generated, and who's the guy calling the shot, man? Because it's like it only takes one guy that's with it to go point you in the right direction. And if he's good, because you could lose your money too.
Mm-hmm.
So like I read about this short squeeze and I was like, wow, like not enough interest for me. Because I'm like, okay, now I'm going to read about it now that you brought it to my attention. Because I'm like, ultimately it's like that one will make the big pages. Like it's a historical function.
For anyone watching who doesn't know what we're talking about, basically there's a company called Melvin Capital that had a very large short position set to expire on Friday, which is January 29th. And so somebody in November, it looked like on Reddit, in the WallStreetBets subreddit, called this. And I guess a lot of people have been slowly jumping in, but it's hitting kind of fever pitch this week. And so it went from, I think it was at like $20 a share early this year to now it's at like currently, as of the time of us speaking, is at like $350 a share. So many people have made many millions of dollars. And yeah, it's kind of nuts. So currently the NASDAQ chairman is talking about suspending trading for 30 days if it's linked to social media activity, which is...
Wait, why? Why is that?
Because they're trying to cover the asses of... So from what I understood...
Oh, you stepped on my friend's toes. Don't do that. I'm pushing you off.
Yeah, so from what I understood, the Melvin Capital earlier today, I think yesterday, they got someone to cover their losses, but then they declared bankruptcy at some point today. Wow. And then allegedly, but people watching the market don't think it's true, but some official sources have said that they're out of their position currently, but nobody's seen enough volume of trading for them to think that's the case. So the issue, from what I understand, is that because shorts are infinite risk, meaning they can continue to, and if the price of the shares went up to $1 billion a share, they would owe infinite money, right? So, and not saying that they will, it's not likely, but basically the fear, I guess, is that Melvin is already bankrupt. Then whoever's going to bail them out is going to go bankrupt because someone has to buy the GameStop shares, no matter what. That's just how shorts work, I guess. So
wait. So the short works like this. This is for people who are naive to the stock market, okay? Which is the short works like this. I'm selling that thing, and I don't have one.
Yeah, Let me find. I got you.
correct?
I got you an example here. Let me
Yeah.
find. Somebody made a very good example with bananas that I thought was pretty funny.
Okay.
It's on my
Thank
Twitter.
you, Garrett.
So, where are you? Oh, come on, the bananas. Somebody's moved my bananas. Who moved my cheese? Of course, Twitter. Other things that happened, I guess, while I'm waiting for this to attempt to load. Okay. Discord has banned the WallStreetBets Discord. They had a Discord with like 30,000 people in it. Now, they said that this was not because of the trading things going on, but they did it the same day.
Huh.
So,
Yeah,
obviously is why.
Don't look here. There's no news to report, brothers.
Yeah. So what's important to note is that this is actually part of a follow-up of a precedent, because they claimed it was because of the same reasons that they were banning the president for stuff. So it's inappropriate stuff and whatever. So that's the reason they're kicking all the right-wing people off, even though WallStreetBets is politically neutral, as far as I understand, maybe right-leaning theoretically. But
money is never neutral, brother.
Right. So, all right, here, I found the bananas thing. So this is, I thought this was pretty funny. It says, let's dumb this down for you apes. Let's say 5 bananas currently cost $10. One ape on the market has 5 bananas. A snake asks to borrow 5 bananas for a bit and instead sells the 5 bananas, thinking the price will go down soon. This is shorting. He thinks he can buy them later for less and give them back to the ape, so he makes profit on the difference. A group of apes notices what stupid snakes are doing and decides to buy all the bananas on the market until snakes have no other choice than to buy from the group of apes in order to return what they borrowed. If group of apes stay strong, then price will go rocket emoji, rocket emoji, rocket emoji. So I thought that was a pretty good explanation.
That says it all. That's exactly right, man. It's like, but what's amazing to me is like this, it's like, this is how, what's his name, man? I can't forget the name of the gentleman who is George Soros made his money against the Brits.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a dangerous game to play, but it's a very profitable one if you know how to do it, right?
Apparently, it's like, well, knowledge is good, but if there's any if you get found out, man, the monkeys are going to get you. Have your lunch.
That's it. Well, I mean, and so this is the point, and this is why a lot of people are mad about what everyone other than the Wall Street guys are doing, the WallStreetBets guy, the Reddit guys, because the fact that anybody on the rich people side of this equation is trying to do anything to prevent these people from losing their money when they had, I believe, they bought 140% of the GameStop stuff, so they had bought more than existed or something like that. They took an unnecessarily large risk out of overconfidence. The fact that people are covering their asses when normal people lose all their money and don't get their asses covered is the real mistake here, right? That's the issue that makes it like a socio-cultural issue. And that's going to be the thing if you have all these people that for the first time in their life are winning and getting rich, and then somebody comes and fucks with this, which is very likely before Friday when those stocks are due, right? Somebody's going to come and try and do something. You're adding to the list, the unwritten, as of yet unwritten list of grievances that certainly exists somewhere that, at the end of the list.
The account, the ledger in the back of my mind, right?
Yeah. And that's it. You have, if you read through on the subreddit, there's people are like, oh, I use this to buy chemo for my wife, or I use this to buy food. Like I put my last $20 in here and I was able to buy food for the week or stuff like that, right? So small investors are for the first time in their life being able to win big in the way that large scale investors do all the time, right? And if you're going to take this from people like that, who after, a year of their businesses being destroyed and other, normal investments crashing and $600 in stimulus money, like,
I read you loud and clear, man. I think that's interesting. And it's like, yeah. It's like, because it's like, I call this a Robert F. Kennedy school of It's not Robert F. Robert Kennedy School of Thought. Okay. I used to think it was John F. Kennedy School of Thought. It's actually Robert Kennedy School of Thought, which is don't get mad, get even. It's like, because the team that I wish to represent is of that mindset. It's like, yeah, no, it's okay. We'll square up later. And it's just that it goes on the ledger, right? It goes in the ledger and we'll settle accounts when we get it around to it. Right?
I mean, that's effectively it. But when you think about what this looks like to a normal person, if they are, and it's not obvious yet that they're going to succeed in doing this, but it seems like the motions are in place that someone behind the scenes is trying to stop this from happening. What that looks like to the average person is that the game is rigged against them, right?
What can they do?
They've talked about putting a 30-day moratorium on trading GameStop on the NASDAQ. So if they were to do this, they're effectively betting that in 30 days, the hype will die down and then the shorts are going to be able to get out because the price is going to drop.
When are the shorts due?
Friday.
They can't, they're done, man.
Well, we'll see. So there's been talk already.
If they stop trading, you have to settle the short.
Right. So the issue being that they're going to change. It looks like they may change the rules of the game.
Oh yeah, that's a game. And it's like, okay, but still, it's like they still are going to have to settle the short.
Well, I guess that's the difference. If it drops down from $350 to $100, they would save a lot of money, right? Now, here's the thing: all these people on Reddit are not going to sell.
You just hold it. It's buy and hold, man.
That's it. Because that's it. There's no other option. It's like it does not, unless somebody else chooses to sell, the price will not go down, right? And in fact, the price will continue to go up. And so theoretically on Friday, when they have to buy these back, they're going to go up an enormous amount. And that's when everyone's really going to make their money, right? Because they're already up, over 140%, I think. So it could be
not even close. It's like 100. It's like 1,000% is what you're telling me. It's 10 times.
Oh yeah, that was just today. Sorry. Let me.
Shit. Sorry, you got me speaking Hebrew.
Yeah, that is $GME. Yeah, 134% today.
Wow.
Let's see.
Wow, that's a squeeze, buddy. That is a very noteworthy squeeze because it's like.
Yeah, it was like $18.40. So.
Wow. You're like talking to you is always a trip, man. But this is blowing my mind out like this. You're educating me like nobody's business. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, happy to help. Oh man, it's just that.
What a game though. This is an interesting game. So now we're gonna monitor them and be predatory anti-snake people, right?
Stupid. I get. Well, that's the thing, and I think people. So where it gets really interesting, people are taking this even further. So they went and looked at all the shorts that Melvin Capital has in other companies, and they also started buying those too.
Wow. So, wait. So what? How do you find that information?
I have no idea. That's I'm sure that's publicly available, but I have no clue.
Yeah, I understand you. It's like we got better fishermen than me for that purpose, and their job is to tell all the other fishermen which ones to bite, which hooks to take the bait off of, right?
Yeah. So it says right here, GameStop short sellers have lost $5 billion this year.
Wow.
Oh man.
Yes. Yeah, it's like now we're onto the game of these people. Yeah, man.
Well, basically the way this is going to go. This is never going to happen again because nobody's going to be able to take this kind of a risk with a short. That's the problem. They took a ridiculous risk, right? It's already risky. They were just confident that they could do it because nobody cares about GameStop, right? But in fact, these specific kind of nerds on Reddit who are the people that do. And so they, it's just bizarre. I mean, it's just bizarre. And I very much wonder what it's like to be the guy at GameStop, because if I was the CEO of GameStop, I would sell all of my shares right now. It's never getting better than this, right? Like they're on the way out for sure. Which is why they shorted them in the first place, right? The main thing is that nobody's going to be able to play this game again. But also now people know that organized decentralized internet people are frankly more dangerous than like a country at this point.
That's right. Yeah, it's like weaponized nerds, man.
they call it weaponized autism on the
Yeah,
internet.
yeah, I like it, man. I'm like, I must suck at being an autist, but I'm gonna join up because that's a good army to get into. Because it's like an army ants, man. They always win. You can't win. You can squish some of them maybe, but it's like that team is gonna win, man.
It's the same. I don't know if you're familiar with Anonymous, but it's the same kind of phenomenon of just it's the same like category of like internet people who have too much information and too much time on their hands.
And nothing. And they're game players, man. They're like,
yeah, they're vicious.
They're going.
They do some crazy stuff.
I'm gonna organize my other nerd friends, and we're gonna make $1 million. And it's like, oh, that's not a bad deal at all. And it's like nothing will get the nerds working like good nerds, but giving them $1 million, man, then maybe they'll get a date. It's just like this, man. It's like, bravo, boys. That's awesome. That is high quality. It's like the new aristocratic function, man. It's like you're a warrior. You're a big game getter, man. That's
it. I mean, it's when you think about. So I might even have said this on the first episode we did, but one of my favorite quotes is the 20th century is about the centralization of power by means of technology. The 21st century is about the democratization of power by means of technology. If you think about that, the most powerful people are rapidly becoming people with very, very skilled use of existing and emerging technologies, right? This is proof of concept.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And it's like this. It's like, it has to be, they have to come at it hard with the boot, man. And all the boots. And it's like,
that's it, because they can't let it.
It's embers everywhere, man. You can't put this one out without, you can't do it because it's too much interest in central.
Well, that's the problem is anything they try to do is just going to enrage, the lower classes, right? Because now
it's all good.
You could look at some of these things. People posted their pictures, how much they made, what they're going to use the money for, all kinds of stuff. And
wait, send the links in, okay? We'll put it in the show.
Yeah, I'll send you just the Wall Street.
Send them to Jeff, man. John, excuse me.
Yeah, I got you.
Because I'm not the savvy one here. I'm just a pretty face, man.
Yeah, I'll send a bunch of those to.
That's
to
awesome because I'm like, this is like what? It's like it makes me very curious, and anything that makes me curious is always good, because that is the prime of all the we get in the world is that which makes you curious and interested to seek. That's the gold of the world right there.
Okay, so you must be invited to visit this community. This happened in the time that we were talking, because this was not like this before we started talking. We're experiencing technical difficulties based on unprecedented scale as a result of the newfound interest in WallStreetBets. We're unable to ensure Reddit's content policy and the rules are enforceable without a technology platform that can support automation of this enforcement. WallStreetBets will be back. The moderators of the subreddit have set it to private.
They shut it down.
Well, so who actually shut it down is ambiguous. So it may have been them intentionally.
Me though, right?
Huh?
You could invite me, right?
I can't see it, so I'm going to see if
you're not a participant.
I should have logged in earlier today.
Oh, it's okay. So here's what we did. We just go. You fish around for the participant to invite us, right?
Perhaps.
I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. Man, you give me.
Yeah, I don't remember any of my Reddit login info. Whatever, I'll figure it out later.
Yeah, it's get me too amped up, man. I like it.
I know, right? I was excited.
Like this, like what up? What? I didn't expect to go there with you today, man. It's like always a trip. I got to give you that. You get one of these. Bravo. It is awesome. And it's like this. It's like, what next? So like, well, just keep your ears open, man. We're in the middle of the intersection. It's like anything can happen, right?
This is two unprecedented things this year. We had the Capitol riots are a big deal. And then this is a big deal. I mean, there's
wait. I take exception to this term Capitol riots. I don't regard it as riots. I go, it's highly inflated terminology. Okay. It's like this is way more interesting than that to me, way more. And it's like, there's the propaganda value for the event of January 6th is high. The propaganda value for this is negative. It's like, we have to squelch that one down hard if we're on the other team, right?
Well, that was somebody made the argument that I thought was pretty compelling, which was that if you look at a combination of both Trump's presidency and the riots, that they actually only benefited the left in any significant way. And I was like, well, you're not wrong, right? Like, who benefits from that? Well,
we bono, man.
The left, just the left.
It was like this. The left goes to this book again, right? Critical Theories. That's by Helen Pluckrose and James Lindsay, which I'm reading, and I recommend highly.
Oh, I love them. I didn't know it was their book. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like this book is like, this says it all. This is like this. Like, okay, I got interested in this. So Lindsay made a video about Antonio Gramsci, and he calls him the linchpin of our modern era, because it's like he is. And I have discovered him too, but it's like this. I held my nose to even begin studying the Marxists because I despised them, their whole thing so much. And I did it. But these guys, they're reading this information and studying the postmodern doctrines that
Antonio who?
Gramsci, Gramsci.
Oh, Gramsci. Yeah, I'm familiar. He is he's terrible.
He's a linchpin, and it's like this. It's like, so these guys, they held their nose and did this intense research on this postmodern theory and critical theory, and they're so fluent with it, and then condense it into meaningful, understandable, what is the significance of it for us now and why we need to know about it, which is like, and they did all the hard labor. I'm like, I take my hats off to them, because it's like, this is an important work. Because I have problems in my family. I got family members that won't talk, because it's like this. I'm disagreeable enough to tell you what I actually think, and I don't agree with the theory, and therefore you can go cry in your room, because we are not going to have an intellectual discussion because you can't hold your ground. And that's not my fault. It's just that the theory has no ground underneath it, and it's but it caused a familial rift. You know what I mean? And that's just awful. And this is the way I see it from my research, is that the opposition, which the owners are perpetrating on us so their rent seeking can continue against us, is one aspect of it. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's no accident. It's like, so Gramsci is working for Rockefeller, right? And it's like, and only the useful idiots think they're a revolutionary working against Rockefeller, and they can cuss Rockefeller all they want and believe what they want, as long as they destabilize you and me in our activities in cooperation.
That's the great game, right? So the real thing is, as far as I understand it, all of that is even like, you have to go deeper than Marx, because ultimately it's you could go as far, at least back to Kant. Because you get Kant, then Hegel, then Marx, and Hegel's the most cited guy in Marx, and Engels, I believe. Engels was more of just the financier for Marx. Obviously, he wrote some shit too, but
right.
But the problem with it all ties into the academy as a whole, because Kant was this dude who never left his hometown, never did anything terribly interesting. He was like, just very routine, very boring. And we accepted that kind of life. Yeah, that guy can write our entire concept of philosophy, and we won't question the fact that he was boring as shit. Right. I mean, really, imagine if you were going to go to medical school and you're Hippocrates, right? Imagine if Hippocrates himself was like a leper, an untreated leper, right? And he wrote all this stuff about medical stuff, but he was like a sickly wretch, right? And then nobody questioned that had anything like that. Nobody asked, is that prohibitive of him being a good doctor if he's this miserable, ill person, right? Imagine if nobody asked that question. Right. It's Hippocrates, so the guy that we base modern medicine on. And right. That notion with Kant is the same notion with philosophy that we didn't even consider as a prerequisite. Maybe this guy should apply any of the shit that he talked about in his life at all. And in fact, he didn't. And so we get Kant, who did not live a real life, right? He lived in his hometown and never left and was sickly and boring, right? Then you have Marx, who wrote about the working class and never had a real job, right?
Right.
And now we have academia, who write all these theories about capitalism that they don't really engage with, and all these theories about a world that don't really relate to reality whatsoever, because it's fundamentally rooted in this core of people that do not meaningfully engage with the world in a way that matters.
I know. It goes like this. I look at it like this. It's like the presumption here is that the institutions provide status, right? So it's like status is like an institutional placeholder. And so it's like the institutions provide status to the people who participate in the institutions and then project the interests of the elite into the general population. That's Gramsci, but it's a cultural hegemony, right? And it's like the presumption that we have, our naive assumption is that the institutions are meritocratically derived status, that it's based upon merit. And I'm like, no. Okay, now there was a guy, and I won't say his name. He was in my 4th grade class, FS. Okay? That's not too much information. I don't want to, but we'll call him, I don't want to abuse anybody. You know what I mean? But so
yeah, let's call him Scott Farkas.
Okay, so Scotty's in the class. So I'm in 4th grade. Scotty is 15, and he's in my 4th grade class, and he's an idiot. And I believe that in a terminological sense. He can't. Empty set, right? So halfway through the year, Scotty disappears. I'm like, what happened to Scotty, man? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? We promoted him to 7th grade. I'm like, what? I said, you what? You promoted him to 7th grade. I should be done with all of you now. What are you doing? That makes no sense, because non-compos mentis, right? And that's a social promotion, right? And then so it's like this. It's like, so the presumption is that's not how it works, is false. The actual system is social promotion, and they put people that are like them. And it's like I ran into a patient that it was unexpected. He's a blue collar guy, clearly blue collar. And he says he's been studying narcissism for a year. I'm like, whoa, okay, like, whoa, what? Because that was like, you know what I mean? The guy turning wrenches or something like that. I don't expect him to be studying psychology like that. I go, why are you doing that? He says, my boss is a narcissist. And I'm like, and then he says, my wife is one too. And he knows more about narcissism than I do. And I'm like, so I'm resonating with this, right? So like, who does the narcissist want to have in his organization? So Theodore Kaczynski wrote the book called The Fate of Industrial Society, right? Mm-hmm. That is also known as the Unabomber Manifesto. Okay, for those of you who are not in the know about who Theodore Kaczynski is, he is the Unabomber and in jail right now. And so he says,
wait, he's not dead? I thought he was dead.
I don't know if he is. Maybe he is. He was, last I heard, he was incarcerated. So Theodore Kaczynski says, where is he? Yes, yeah. Anyway, so Theodore Kaczynski said this. He said, and he calls them liberals, and I don't think it to be political, like, but I regard this as the successful people in the liberal establishment, okay, which is inside the institutions, are those that are hyper socialized, overly socialized, which is to say sensitive to social cues, okay, and insecure. So you promote them above what they know that they're qualified to do. They're paid too much, and they know they don't belong there, and they're sensitive to your cues. So the narcissist now goes like this, intimates that you're going to do something immoral, illegal, or whatever, somehow that may benefit them. I don't have to make a paper trail if I'm the narcissist. You know what to do. You'll try it. And if it goes sideways, well, you'll get punished. And I got no dark mark on my record, right?
Have you ever heard of Dilbert's Law?
No.
So Dilbert's Law, I think it's a variation on the Peter Principle, but it's the idea that everyone is promoted to the position of their highest incompetence. Meaning,
that's worse than the Peter Principle, man.
That's it. Basically, if you're competent at your job, you get promoted until you're incompetent, right? So it guarantees that in a hierarchical, your hierarchical terminus is the only job that you're not qualified to do, right?
That's a Peter principle. That's a Peter principle.
Well, yeah, that's a Dilbert's law is its spin on that, I guess. But
like the more extreme version of it.
Yeah, is everyone gets promoted to the position of their highest incompetence. So if you think about that, it's the for example, I was just talking to somebody in the Vortex, and they were talking about this woman that was like below the C-suite at the company they worked at. And so she spent 2 years collecting every single mistake that the CEO made, right? Everything, documented it all. And rather than telling anyone about this, she just took it all, put it in a report, whatever. Comes to the board one day and says, hey, here, I'm going to present all this stuff. And they were mad. And then they gave her the CEO's job and fired the CEO. And so I was thinking about that. And I was thinking like, okay, well, there's two problems here. Is one, this person demonstrated an absolute disregard for like the company as a whole and said, I only care about me getting mine. So instead of trying to solve these problems, I'm going to ignore them until it's pertinent, right? And B, the company itself, the board, should have been like, oh, here, thanks for that, cool. CEO, we're going to have a talk, and then you're fired, get out of here because you're treacherous, right? But they didn't, they promoted her. And if you think about that kind of mentality, right, now she's obviously not qualified to be the CEO because the way that she acted is antisocial. And it guarantees that she doesn't have a regard for the company as a whole. When you think about that kind of stuff as it pertains to what you're talking about, how many people are able to get promoted out of this antisocial kind of hyper-socialization, right? But actually aren't able to do the jobs at all. And if you look at academia slowly cannibalizing itself, it stands to reason it's a similar principle at work, right?
Right. It's like this. I certainly don't limit my my conceptualization of this to the academics.
Oh, of course not.
No, all the social institutions as being corrupt in such a fashion, because it's like this. It's like, how do I get what I want and take little risk and get great reward, right? That's the question everybody's asking. And it's like, so it's like it's like there's one other way to talk about it. Narcissism is one way. The other way I would talk about it is sociopathic behaviors, right? Because it's like this. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're qualified, Garrett. If you're the subordinate to me, if you're, I'm trying to get you to do stuff that is outside the scope of what is what we call ethical, perhaps, right? And then it's like, if you can do that, you're good, man. And I will employ, and I'll promote you to the highest extent possible. And it's like, and I would presume you'd be looking for my job too. And it's like, we're looking for the guy above us, and we're working our way up the chain. It's like, it's an organized criminality of sorts. You know what I mean?
Yep. And it all ties back into what we started with, which is it's that competitive mindset, right? We are individualistic to a fault, right? And I'm pretty pro-individualist by most people's standards, but I consider like this, I call it naive individualism, is the notion it's me against the world. And this is speaking from experience, because this was me for most of my teenage years, was like a diehard Ayn Randian objectivist. And that's, I generally have nice things to say about her. So that's not a huge, any objectivist hearing me say that sentence would have cringed hard. But I generally have nice things to say about her. I have a lot of issues with a lot of her stuff, but it's not really her fault. It's like this narcissistic culture that we have where we kind of lost any attachment to society as a whole or the people around us because we're being increasingly atomized out.
Atomization
with society.
It is. It's like I will point to Lech Walesa, Poland, right? And it's solidarity. It's a popular solidarity, which is it. Hang with your brothers and take care of your neighbors and do all that stuff. That's the true strength of us as people. And all of us, and specifically, it goes to neighborhood, your locality, and your wider organizations stemming from those. But it is like, know your neighbor and know who your friends are and be friendly, man, and be helpful to them and try to help them out. That's the bottom line, and work cooperatively. And then this struggling is that's not the game here, because it's like too much. There's too much risk and too much cost, and it's like cooperation is where it's at. And how do we cooperate effectively and make progress and incrementally improve all of our lots? The rising tide floats the boats, right? And that's the game. And it's like, you know, trying to cut throats and step on hands and heads and is just rude. I mean, and it's like, those guys are the ones to keep an eye on. And the ones that are sinking, like the guys that are trying to let air out of all the tires at the same time, you know, try to prevent us from talking and taking advantage of their stupid moves, right? Well, that's not right. They're going to cheat. They're going to use the government. They're going to use force and all the plugs and tools available to prevent us from communicating if that's what they can do. And well, it's like that. It's all fair play, okay? So the trip is just to take your lumps, pay your costs, and get up and dust off and do it again, because it's like that's how you do it. And it's like and use the experience of getting punished in the process to inspire you to do better next time and to learn from your mistakes. And that's all we can do, man. And it's punishing. Life is tough, man.
Amen to that.
Garrett, thank you, man. I want to thank you. It's been wonderful. I just cut you off, and I apologize for that.
I was actually about to ask if where we were at as far as time went, but it sounds like
good. It's a good time to wrap it up. And I was like, I'm very surprised where this conversation went, man. And now you've caused me to, now I got to do some work on this super short squeeze plan, and I look forward to checking out the links and with wonderful anticipation for the next time we chat, because it's like.
Definitely. Yeah, we always have a good time.
All right, man. Well, I thank you again, and we'll talk to you later, Garrett.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Bye now. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Best Medicine Podcast with Bradley H. Werrell, D.O. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe below, either over there or over there. Also, if you're interested in a medical consultation with myself, there's also information below.